Welcome, guys, to the Coaches Podcast. My name is Callum Holt, Head of Operations here with Luke Hawkins. And today we're joined on the Coaches Podcast by the master himself, Mr. Chris Lianos. He is an NLP trainer and coach. He is a author and podcast host of The Naked Mindset. And wait for it, guys, it keeps going on and on. He is a black belt in karate, a kundalini yoga master, a reiki master, has a bachelor in metaphysics, and most importantly, he is a lover of Tim Tams. So Chris has been part of our crew team here with Luke Hawkins since the very beginning, like 7 years ago. And I really wanted to bring him on board to share his story and success with everyone as well. So Chris, welcome to the podcast. And if you could bring everyone up to speed on your journey and what you're doing before coaching, and we'll launch into it. So welcome, mate.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate being here. You guys are doing an absolutely amazing job, and it's an honor to be sharing the screen with you, mate, and sharing a bit of my journey. My journey for coaching started back in 1998 when I got my first managerial job, and I thought that I was a coach, and very quickly realized that there was a difference between managing people and coaching people. And I got into a personal development, I suppose, journey when I was 20. I went to my very first Amway meeting, and my friend was there and he's drawing circles, and I decided that I wanted to conquer the world. And back then they had tapes, and for the younger viewers and listeners, you can Google what tapes are. But they used to have these tapes, and it was all about personal development, and I fell in love with growing my mind. And my intention was I'm going to go and learn all about the mind and come back into network marketing and own the space and just really kill it there. And I got into Tony Robbins, and like most people do, and one thing led to another, and then I got into an opportunity to coach. When 1998, I started running events at work in terms of corporate, and I was good at coaching people. I wasn't very good at managing people, but I was good at coaching people. And I kind of put it on the back burner for a while. I liked the idea of coaching and helping other people, and I really enjoyed the concept of sharing and helping people transform, but it was always from the point of view of corporate. And as time went on, I just realized that I was really enjoying helping people, and my love for being in the corporate rat race started declining. And it took a long time for me to actually make the leap to get into full-time coaching. I went into and did my NLP trainers in 2011. It was a really big year. I did master prac and trainers all in one go. And it wasn't until 2017 that I ran my first event. I had always intended to run it earlier, but I held back, and we'll talk about that. I think that's one of the key things for people that are going into the coaching space. But my plan was that I was going to take a redundancy in 2020 and then go full time in coaching, because I had been building it in the background since really 2017. And the gods spoke, and work kicked me out in 2019. So 6 months earlier than expected. And I found myself going straight into the coaching space that I'd been doing part-time for a while and being quite successful in it. I just didn't take that leap. And then 2019, it was all guns blazing, let's go, and really got into the events and coaching one-on-one in groups. But it was a growth from the part-time work that I'd been doing for a while. And I've known Luke and you guys for 7 years or so, and it's been a wonderful journey. So I'm happy to share anything that can help people that are coming onto the coaching space. I've been in it for a while now, and I've made a lot of mistakes. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, man, I love it. It's, going to be so much gold in that. So I'm interested. It was almost like too tempting there not to dive into what held you back from getting into it.
Yeah, I think it was fear. I like to say that in my earlier days, I was quite risk averse. So I was in a corporate job that was paying very well, and the golden handcuffs. and taking the leap to actually get into coaching and do it really seriously, it takes some guts, because I think we can all. Here's what I found: that the people that go into coaching tend to be the people that others approach anyway for help, right? So it's like, hey, Callum, can you help me out? I've got this problem.
Totally.
And coaches love helping other people. But when you're going to charge somebody for coaching, that's a different energy. And there's a fear there that, oh, what if I can't do it? What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't give them the right advice? What should I charge? Who's going to pay me? All those thoughts were in my head during that period from kind of 2011 to 2015, when I started charging for coaching. It took me a while to really make that distinction that you can coach, but if you want to get results, the people you coach have to be invested.
Yeah.
And usually that investment is a cash investment. So when the person you're coaching is invested and is willing to pay for that, then they're going to get better results. And the funny thing is, and I'd heard this so many times in my early days, and I didn't believe it, was the higher the cost of the coaching, the better the results the client gets. And I was like, no, that can't be true. Who's going to pay me $1,000 an hour? Like, who's going to do that? No one's going to do that. But it was true. The people that, I charged $75 an hour to, they got some results, but most of them didn't get the results they were looking for because they weren't as invested.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Yeah. Good journey.
Yeah. I'm super especially the golden handcuff challenge. I mean, I guess for you, it kind of had your hands forced, so to speak, in terms of like getting made redundant. But yeah, like, was that the thing that really kicked you over the line? Or, they kind of forced you to, forced you out the door, and then you were like, now what?
I was leaving anyway. I had already planned to leave July 2020. That was my exit date. That was already in the plan. So it was really bringing it forward 6 months. It was the universe effectively saying, it's time, go. Go and do what you really love. But the lead up to that, and I think so many coaches are obviously working full time or working part time, and they've got bills to pay and families and so forth. So the advice I always give people is, you need to be able to support yourself to be a good coach.
Yeah.
Right. If you're desperate for the cash, if you're desperate, that desperation comes across to your clients or to your prospective clients.
Yeah.
And they won't go there. They'll look for somebody who doesn't appear desperate. And it's an unconscious thing. Like, I really need this client. I really need this client. So I built my business, my coaching business, part-time before I left.
Yeah.
So I already had money coming in. I already knew that I could do it. And I was kind of at the place where I'd maxed out what I could do part-time anyway.
Yeah.
That's why I was ready to leave. It just got brought forward by 6 months.
That's also what I'm intrigued about like how you manage to balance that, like, especially if you're in a, medium to high paying corporate role, which is not just 9 to 5 normally. It's on contract as 9 to 5, but it's always more hours. And if it's not the actual technical hours, it's, you go home and then you're thinking about that and thinking about those problems that you're trying to work on solving. How did you work on balancing, even growing a part-time business and that corporate role?
It was hard. It was hard, Cal, because it's not even that. It's the business, it's the work, and then it's the wife.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't even have kids. So I totally understand the balance issue. And for me, what it was I decided that, when I got home and sometimes I got home at 5, sometimes it was 6, sometimes it was 4. But I decided that I would do 2 or 3 hours of work every night. That I was going to work through to 9 or 9:30 or even 10 o'clock some nights. And knowing that I was going to do that, I had to balance my relationship. So my wife, Eleni, had to get time. It wasn't about come home, eat and work. It was come home, spend time with my wife, eat dinner, share, and make sure that she knows that I'm going to head into the office from 7 o'clock, for instance, and I'm going to be from 7 to 10 working, and I'm working for us. So it's not me going into the office and just wasting time. I'm working for our future, and I'm going to make sure that you've got time so that we can be connected and really be present with her at that point. The balance with work was just a commitment that I made to myself. I want to coach. I want to run events. How do I do that? So I need to block out the time and be very disciplined in making sure that I use the time that way.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Did you find like that for you with your life at that point, that doing that in like having that time block of doing your coaching work in the evening, that worked for you rather than like in the morning? Like, did you experiment with different times?
Yeah, I'm not a morning person in terms of really being switched on. It's just if I get up in the morning, it's very hard for me to be coach orientated. I'm more creativity orientated in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm more likely to write in the morning or create content.
Yeah.
For me, coaching was the afternoon was much, and even right now, I don't coach before 10 a.m. It's just no chance. I know, right?
Yeah, fair. Yeah. So how did you go then when you were, you got let off and you're like, all right, I'm going to ramp this bad boy. I'm going to, make it take off. Like, what was that process then for you in terms of like, was it the next day you were like, all right, don't have a 9 to 5 now. Let's do, 10 till 10 coaching. Like, how did you go about ramping?
Yeah. I took 2 weeks off. 2 weeks, I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing for 2 weeks. I thought maybe it was even 3 weeks. I literally said to myself, I'm going to celebrate this career that I've had, and I'm going to honor myself and give myself a break, because if I just jump straight into it, I'm not giving myself any opportunity just to have a bit of downtime and celebrate and respect and honor and just look back and say, yeah, look what I've accomplished. So once I got over that, when it was time for me to get into work, routine is what has kept me going and what was my savior and continues to be my savior. When you leave work, one of the easiest things that can happen is you think you've got all the free time in the world because it's like, it's on my schedule.
Yeah.
But if it's on your schedule, nothing ever gets done, because you wake up at 6, you wake up at 7, you wake up at 9, you go to bed at 1 or 3 or whatever. So the very first thing I did is I established a schedule. I literally sat down and said, what do I want my week to look like? Because I still have my wife, I still have my health, I still have family that I want to connect with and friends that I want to connect with. I need to plan this out. Otherwise, I'm going to be like a horse with blinkers. I won't see any of my life. So I sat down and thought, okay, 6:30 till 7:30, exercise. 7:30 to 8:30, breakfast, shower. 8:30 till 9, review my goals. And then from 9 to 12 is usually the time where I do more of my creativity, so social content and so forth. And then from 12 onwards, I get into the meat of the coaching and event work. And the routine is what's important, absolutely important.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Were you always, on point with your routine and time management and time blocking through corporate and all that, or?
Hell no. No.
The way you're saying that is like with such certainty that I'm like, all right, here we go.
Because what happens in corporate, somebody tells you start at 9 and you finish at 5. Right? Like if you're working in a corporate, even if you're a contractor, you will know that you have a start time of between here. We expect you to be in the office around this time. So the routine is kind of controlled by somebody else. I recognize within myself one of my, let's call it a weakness, is the fact that I can very easily become blinkered in anything that I do. So I can be very blinkered and focused at work, but I can also get very blinkered and focused in helping somebody else or in creativity or in my health. And that then means that some other part of my life is going to suffer. So I had to create the routine and recognize that, well, how does it work for me, and come up with a pattern that works for me in order for me to be able to live a life and not just be, 10 till 10 work and have nothing else. It's very easy to do. Very easy.
Yeah. 100%. It's like, I'm genuinely interested in this because it's like part of my problem is that, and sometimes it's like, it's almost like the opposite of what a lot of people would, maybe think in terms of
100%.
like my role is quite, we'll say encompassing. It's probably a good word. And there's a lot of different fingers that I've got, a lot of different pies I've got fingers in. And sometimes like I feel like I need to like it's harder for me to stop at 5 in the afternoon. It's hard for me to like put a boundary on things and be like, stop, like go move, or go like have relationship time.
Yeah.
I've kind of always found that challenging. I think of like trying to balance more than one thing in life.
I think that's one of the challenges whether you're working for yourself or you're working for an organization like Luke Hawkins, where there's a lot of moving parts. Right? I was talking to somebody last week, and he wants to leave his work and be an entrepreneur. And he said, when I questioned why he wants to do it, he said, because I want to have more free time. And I felt like I had to, slap him with a cold fish, and just remind him that being an entrepreneur is not free time. You actually work more hours. You do much longer hours when it's your business, or you're working in an entrepreneurial business, because of the nature of that. So structure is very, very important. And what I do to help with that is I work in 45 to 1 hour blocks.
Right.
So even if let's say I'm writing a book, and I'm going to write between 9 and 12. In my diary, it doesn't say 9 to 12 writing. It says 9 till 10 writing chapter 1, 10 to 11 writing chapter 1, 11 to 12 starting chapter 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's very clear. And I set an alarm on my phone, 45 minutes. So when it rings, I get up and I take a 5-minute break to reset myself.
Yeah.
And that keeps the energy flowing.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I was reading recently. It was Russell Brunson's his book, High Performance Habits, and
Brendan Burchard.
Brendan Burchard. Sorry, yeah. Russell Brunson. It's funnel, isn't it? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And good correction there. And I was reading something about that made me, I was like, damn, I'm guilty of this, of like, he went on to say that one of the biggest things that high performers struggle with and where they lose energy is in transitions.
Yes.
And is in the like transition from one task to a next.
Yes.
And it's something, after I read that, this in the world of transformation and all that, it's like you become conscious of something and then you're like, oh my God, I'm like guilty of this so much.
Yeah.
Of like not even 45-minute transitions. To me, it's like 30-second. Like I'll get a message from someone, I'll be like, oh shit, I need to handle that. Right. Rather than like blocking out everything, focusing on one thing for 45 minutes and actually getting it done.
It's a skill that we can all develop and be better at. I don't think I'm perfect at it by any means. And it's something that I work on every day. And some days I'm really good at it, and other days I'm really crap at it. Right. And it's like, well, didn't do that very well today.
Yeah.
But we're human beings, right? I think we're always evolving towards something.
Yeah.
So having tools and techniques around routine, I think, is one of the greatest lessons that I learned that has really helped me to develop a business.
Yeah. Do you think as well, like you mentioned, I was talking to one of the other coaches a couple of weeks ago who, he does a lot of martial arts as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of got me thinking in terms of that, like potentially as a, those learnings and those lessons, contribute to it as well.
Yeah.
And I was going to dive into that in terms of, man, I mean, you're a black belt in karate.
Yeah. There's a lot of discipline required in karate, right? It's very particular, especially, there's this adage that I didn't know about until I got to black belt, and my sensei said, now that you're a black belt, you can actually start learning. Because up until that, it's all about getting the belt. And when you get there, you go, okay, oh, geez, there's so much I don't know. And when you go back and you restart, the dedication required to achieve anything, not just martial arts, but anything is really important. So I think that there is a correlation for me in terms of when I'm on and it's the same energy that is when I'm training and teaching.
Yeah.
When I'm off, that energy is missing.
Yeah.
So being able to tap into that, knowing what that is for me, like, okay, I feel that, I know that I'm on. When I don't feel that, I know that I'm not on.
Yeah.
And that's a really good internal state check for me.
Yeah.
So I don't just waste time. I can feel I'm in that space or I'm not.
Yeah. How do you, I mean, I guess, how do you cultivate / how do you tune into that state? Yeah. What's that? Like I've experienced, if we label it as like a flow state, I've experienced times like that in the past, and it's I feel like I'm always in the pursuit of that. And I feel like I spend like not much of my time in that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, how do you cultivate that / how do you get into it now? Like, do you have like a secret?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. And I've spoken about this a little bit on the podcast and with some other people. And my answer is not an answer that most people like, because so here's the thing. Flow state is, let's define it. Flow state for me is where I'm so focused that distractions are not there, that everything is aligned to my purpose. Okay, so my mind, my heart, my energy, my being is all aimed at this one thing.
Yeah.
When we're doing that, we're in flow, right? So the natural enemy of that is distraction. So what stops flow state is distractions. What allows you to get into flow state is focus. So when I teach this, one of the first things I say to people is, if you don't have a routine, you have nearly no chance of cultivating flow state intentionally. You can fall into flow state by accident because you just do something and then all of a sudden you're there and time is gone. But to cultivate it intentionally requires discipline and routine. You need to train yourself to get into that state. You need to train yourself to not follow distractions. That old squirrel. You need to train yourself not to do that, so your brain recognizes when you're actually in concentration and flow, and then falls into that.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, I sometimes like I can eliminate, especially in the outside world. I can eliminate like external distractions easy enough, and I can block, like, time blocking that a bit.
Yes.
Definitely not perfect with it, but
yes.
I like the concept of it, and I could get better at it. But I get the concept. Oh, I tell you, I feel this is a stereotypical thing to say or cliche, but it's when you're in that, like, okay, working on something, and then the metaphorical like squirrel bounces across the road, and you're like, of some thoughts in your mind.
Yeah. It's really a sense. There's two things that will really help flow state for your listeners that are like, I want to have more flow state. I want to have more productivity, because really that's what we want flow state for.
Yeah.
It increases productivity. You feel better, right? So you need to do a couple of things. And just generally, this is what I do. First of all, you need to take care of your body so that you are more physically capable of focusing. Because if you're dehydrated, it's very hard for you to focus. If you haven't eaten properly or slept properly, physiologically, it's very hard for your brain to be in a focused state because it's depleted of things. So you need to physically take care of your sleep. You need to have the right vitamins. You need to be hydrated, eating the right foods. You do that physiologically, you're able to focus more. And when you can focus more, you have less interest in distractions. Distractions are usually a way for us to get away from something. And a lot of times it's dehydration. Most people don't drink anywhere near enough water, and their focus then falters. So one of the first things I get people to do is take care of their body. Make sure you drink enough, make sure water, make sure you sleep enough, and make sure you're taking care of yourself. Use a routine, and then you get distracted. It's okay. Just come back and just train. Eventually you fall into it.
Yeah. I love it. How long does it take to become a black belt in karate?
It took me 5 years.
Yeah. Why karate?
I started training karate when I was 12 or 13. I want to be Bruce Lee. And like all the kids back in the 80s, aging myself now, we were Bruce Lee, right? So I went there and I trained, and I got up to a particular, I think got up just before brown belt. And I stopped at, I think it was 17 when I stopped, or 18, something like that. And I decided that I wanted to go back and finish. So I enjoyed the karate when I was a teenager, and I thought, let me go back and finish it. And I found a school that taught the same style, and I went back and started from white belt and then just worked my way back up. It's just something that I enjoy. I enjoy the physicality of it. I enjoy the dedication. I enjoy the control of being able to throw a punch and stop it on somebody's skin, even though the punch is 100% power. And just to stop it. That control of the mind and the body has really served me in coaching, because it allows me to stay in control of my state.
Yeah. I can totally. I'm not surprised by that at all. I imagine that's a really pivotal part of what makes you you. So yeah, it's amazing. Mate, when it comes to transformation, what's the biggest thing that holds people back?
Well, I think the obvious answer is fear. I think everybody knows that. It's a fear of something. But I often think about it. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this recently, and I think it's also a very cliched answer. I think everybody says, well, fear. If you didn't have the fear, you'd move forward, right? But I also think that when we have enough motivation to achieve something, the fear doesn't stop us, because it's necessary to achieve something, right? When we're internally motivated by the avoidance of pain, and all of a sudden you have a potential pain. For instance, in 2006, when I was working, I went through a really difficult time at work, and I nearly lost my job. And I was very close to not having a job back in 2006. And I ended up working 12 to 14-hour days. I was terrified, not just fearful, terrified that if I didn't perform, I would lose my job. If I didn't transform, I would lose my job. So the fear didn't hold me back. The fear was actually now a motivation. So I think what stops most people from transforming is, one, clarity on what they actually want to transform. Like, what is it you want to transform? Oh, I want to make more money. That's not clear. That making more money is an outcome. The transformation is within. So having clarity about what specifically is it that you want to transform and why. And then if you have those two things, fear is kind of irrelevant. We all have fear. That doesn't go away. We all have it. The people that we often look up to as gurus and masters and so forth, they're not fearless. They've just learned to ignore the fear because they recognize that it's a human emotion that, for most people, is just part of life. So recognizing that, okay, the fear is going to be there. What is it I want to transform, and why? If I'm clear on those two things, the fear becomes irrelevant. I'll work it. I'll find a way.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I'm always interested by is like, you know, yeah, fear is, you know, to get rid of the fear is you know, at least from my experience, is borderline never going to happen. You know, there's obviously reframes and there's excessive fear and all that kind of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, there's still that distinctive difference that of like, there's interviews of like, you know, Elon Musk, right, who I follow pretty closely, and yeah, he people ask him like, are you scared of failure? And you know, he's like, he expresses that he, you know, yes, he experiences fear, but yet, like, there's these huge players in the world that still experience it, and so it's like that to me is a like massive kind of, I guess, red flag to, it's not the fear that stops people. Like, it's not, that's not the root cause, because otherwise, how are these punters not stopped by that?
Yeah. Look, when we do work and we work with fear as a process, right? And we say, okay, we're going to help somebody release the fear, and they feel the fear has been released. Great. Yeah. But we're not creating robots.
Yeah.
Right. The fear is part of being a human being. What happens when we release fear is we recognize we're not a slave to it.
Yeah.
That's what is actually happening. The moment we feel, oh, that fear is gone, we recognize we're not a slave to it. So we remember how powerful we actually are. So next time the fear shows up, we have another resource, that powerful feeling, to be able to combat it, to move forward. Yeah. I think if anybody wants to have a fearless life, then, you know, it's going to be pretty tough to find somebody that has that is, you know, not having other issues.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I thought about this question before this podcast, and I was really looking forward to asking it of you. I'm not sure where I think I heard it from somewhere, but I don't think I made it up, but I can't remember where it's from. Yeah, and the question is like, what do you know to be true about life and coaching, or however you want to interpret that other people don't? What do you know to be true that other people don't?
What I know to be true is that that I don't really know anything that is actually true. There's a level of, that line where we say, you know, the more I know, the more I realize how much I don't know. It is so true. It is so true, because when I started off my NLP journey, and I learned techniques, and I learned these amazing tools and skills that were transformational and continue to be so in my practice. There's a humbling that also occurs when you realize the tool is just something that is available to help the other person, and that whether this tool works or not is really dependent on two things. One is my certainty in the tool, and secondly, my ability to pass that certainty on to somebody else. So if I thought to myself that I know everything already, that there's no more learning to do, then I'm actually harming the people that I am coaching or will coach. Because if I don't maintain a state of growth, if I don't put myself into situations which are difficult and challenging and scary, then how can I ask my clients to do that? Yeah. And I recognize that the more I realize I don't know, the more scary that is. And also, that's the calling for me to be a better coach, for me to recognize that I don't know most things. I know some things. And if I ever hear a coach saying that they have all the solutions, then I know that I'm talking generally to somebody that hasn't been coaching for very long. Because it doesn't take very long to realize that we are working with people that it's fluid. So yeah, man, I don't know if that's answered your question, but it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I love it. It's a perfect answer. It's one of those questions that's like, you know, convoluted, and it just like is
Totally,
a completely
totally.
like open book.
Yeah,
That's what I was
yeah,
looking forward to
totally.
ask you. It's
Yeah.
great. What advice would you like? You've gone through a pretty hectic journey in many
Mm.
ways, especially I probably don't know many people who outside of Tony Robbins that have been in various forms coaching as long as you have, and gone through different kind of facets and evolutions of coaching. You know, I know you have a lot of, you help us, Luke Hawkins and all that with a lot of new coaches and everything. And I'd love to get your advice in terms of, for people that are just getting into the coaching industry, they don't even have their first client, right? They just have that deep desire to cause some change in the world and to make a difference. What advice would you have for those guys?
Okay, can I give you the controversial advice?
Oh, mate, absolutely.
All right. So here's the cliched advice. Let's start with the cliched advice. The cliched advice is know your why. Know why you're doing it. Right. And if you know your why, you'll get there. I personally don't think that advice works for the majority of coaches who are just starting out. Now, let me frame this. The coaches that are just starting out tend to be people that are working already in some other field and have a passion for helping people, and they want to obviously get into the coaching space. So here's the controversial advice. Focus on the money. Focus on the money. Here's my advice. Like if you don't focus on making enough money in your coaching business, you will not be in the coaching business. And you have no way of helping somebody else unless you can take care of yourself first. Yeah. It's that old metaphor of, in a plane and what the flight attendant says, if there's a depressurization, put your mask on first, then worry about your kid. This is the same in the coaching business when you're just starting out. If you want to be successful, you've got to get the money thing taken care of from the start. Because the last thing that you want is to be worried about money, because one, puts extraordinary pressure on you and your family, but it also makes you a desperate coach. And desperate coaches do not perform well because they're so desperate that even when they get clients, it's like we're at the effect of a client. We need the client to get the result. We take all their pressure on our shoulders. It's our responsibility to transform them, because if they don't transform, they won't give me referrals, and all this happens. So it's very important you get the money thing from the start taken care of. So if you're going to start coaching, obviously have a passion for helping people and know why you want to do it. But your number one priority is to take care of the money from day one.
Yeah. What I'd love to chunk down on that. Yeah. In terms of by taking care of the money, do you mean in terms of the pricing of products, or do you mean money, your own money stories, or go deep out on that for me, because I love that advice.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, obviously you need to be have worked on your own beliefs as a coach to be able to receive money. If you don't feel comfortable receiving money, then it's very hard to be a coach, because you have to ask people for money, right? You say, give me this cash, right? Like if you don't ask that question, you ain't going to get paid. So, and pro bono is great. My first 5 clients were pro bono. Right? When I came out of trainers in 2011, I saw 5 people pro bono, and great experience, but not a fun experience, because you're kind of at their whim. So get your own beliefs straight about receiving money, whatever that is. But secondly, make sure you're charging people. Right? You got to charge. You got to realize if you're coaching and you've got a skill set, if you've gone through a program, right? Like you've done 7-Figure Academy, or you've done some other program, you have a skill level that most people don't have. And as a beginning coach, sometimes it's difficult to recognize what you hold in your hand, because personal beliefs get in the way and so forth. So you got to charge. You just have to charge an amount of money that you feel just a little bit uncomfortable about. Here's an example. If you're comfortable with $150 an hour, but are not comfortable with 200, that's really repulsive, then charge 160, right? Just outside of your comfort zone. So you're stretching, and recognize that some people are gonna say yes to that, and others are gonna look at you and think that you've asked them for an arm and a leg. And that doesn't change whether you're charging 160 or $1,000 or $2,000 an hour. Some people are going to go, here's the cash, let's go. And others are going to look at you as if you've asked for their child. And that's just part of the game. So recognize that from the start.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Man, it's interesting. I actually haven't heard you talk about that side before, and I was expecting the stereotypical answer. And it's something literally yesterday when I was coaching a group of 7 Figure Academy people, and I was talking to them about a similar topic, and just saying how, like, I'm a massive fan of charging more, because especially in business, like as a business owner, it generally solves a lot of your problems if you charge more. And especially at the start, like I've known a couple of people, I'm sure you'd be in this space, you know some people like this, that have actually kind of wedged themselves into this really not ideal situation where at the start of your journey, you have, like, generally you don't have money, but you have time, right? For some people, if they're working full-time job, it's kind of,
sure,
you have money and you don't have, but not much time, but
sure,
it's various versions of that. And then if you don't charge much money, and that's going to take a lot of time to deliver, you end up skewering yourself into this position where you don't have much money and you don't have much time.
Yeah.
And then you're literally in this position where, like, I've known coaches and other businesses before that they literally are like, wow, I've literally just sold people into, like, really screwing myself in my life here.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't have enough money, not enough time to grow my business to bring money in, and I don't have enough money to run my life.
Yes.
And it's this weird, like, vicious circle of, like, oh God.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the inverse of that, which is what you're saying, is like, if you charge more, it means you have more time to do a better job. You're less stressed. You can hire team members to potentially help you. You can pay your team members well, and then they'll deliver a better service to your clients.
Yeah.
And you'll probably get what you want in the first place, which is a great testimonial.
Yeah, because when people are more invested financially, I promise you, the more they pay, the more invested they are.
Yeah.
I tell people now, like, especially beginning coaches, I say you should double your price within 12 months, but increase your price within 6.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're not, like, when you're starting out, like most people are starting charging $50, $100, $150 and delivering really amazing service. I mean, they should be charging twice that.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, that's gold. I love it.
Cool.
Yeah, very good. Mate, I feel like I can just keep mining your brain till the cows come home. But I unfortunately have time limits on these things that I have to abide by. So where can people locate you? Where can people find you?
Right. The easiest place is the website, chrislianos.com. The podcast, you can go to Apple Podcasts, look up the Naked Mindset podcast. I think we've got like 245 episodes on there. Most of them are less than 15 minutes. So good bite-sized chunks that you can listen to. That's the easiest place for me. Go to the website, chrislianos.com, and the Naked Mindset podcast. I mean, there's links on the website for that as well.
Yeah. Perfect. Very, very good. Amazing, mate. Well, thank you so much for Chris for jumping on here, and appreciate you taking the time, mate. And thanks everyone for watching, and make sure you tune in next time, and see you guys very, very soon.